Okay. Hey guys, this is Al again. I wanted to give you a quick update. So it's been a few weeks since we started this project. It got a little bit more complicated than I wanted it to get, but I think we're back on track. What I ended up doing is I didn't mess with the block because I was a little bit worried that the more I got into this, the more it would just get more complicated, take longer, and you know, really the car ran fine up until the point the head gasket let go. So you know, we ordered the head gaskets from the UK. Turns out that there's only really one head gasket set, and you know, whether it's a turbocharged car, non-turbo, or anything else like that, it's the same head gasket set, and the supplier said to me it's the same ones that the Bentley dealers use. When I got them, they're real thin, so I was a little bit concerned. We sent the heads off to the machine shop, and they cleaned them up and shaved them. I was a little bit concerned because they were pretty warped, that they would have shaved them too much. But we got the heads on yesterday, and we got underneath the car and we rotated the engine, and everything spun freely. So I think that we should be okay. You know, as far as the concerns about cylinders, you know, hitting the pistons, hitting the valves or anything else like that. So I think we're in good shape. I think one side was shaved 8 thousandths, another side was shaved 12 thousandths, but you know, it seems like it's okay. So right now, I think what we're going to do next is we're going to replace the O-rings on the brake pumps before we put everything back together. Obviously, we'll clean all this stuff up. I didn't want to touch it or disturb it because before the heads were on, because it was just, you know, too much mess, and I didn't want it exposed to the cylinders. We've got a nice little tool over there that we picked up that takes the pumps off. So we'll get this done today. And I also went shopping. Let me show you this. So we went shopping at British Tool Works, and I bought an EGR block-off kit. So we'll use this little kit to block off the EGR lines. We won't reuse them again. Really nice tools. I mean, this guy makes some really nice stuff. I also picked up a coil spring compressor, and you know, I guess this is the spring compressor that you use on the earlier cars, and then this attachment's what you use on the later cars, on the, you know, the 98 Brooklyns. So this one came along, and you know, some really nice kit there. So we'll get to use that. These are the screws for the threaded rods, and we also got a bonus. There you go, bonus, and it's probably the coolest little caliper pen. It's a pen and a caliper. So thank you very much, Kelly. I like that. So that's it pretty much. So I think right now what we're going to do is we're going to try to start replacing all the O-rings around the brake pumps, and then we're going to start putting the engine back together again. Once we put the engine back together again, then I think, you know, we'll be ready to start it. So how long do you think it'll take for?
We probably have another 2 or 3 days before we're able to turn it over and start it. We still have the manifolds to put on, exhaust manifolds.
Exhaust manifolds, yeah. So that's gonna need, we're gonna need to move it back onto the lift to do that. But yeah, we're getting close. So hopefully we'll be done by the end of the week, and then we'll try to test run it and see how it works. Okay, so we've gotten the engine back together again. When I say we, really, I didn't really do much except for being an extra pair of hands. Vaughan did most of the work, and I'll let him talk about it in a bit. Run into a couple of snags. Snag number one, the gasket set that we got from Intro Car was supposed to be for a fuel injected car, but unfortunately the intake manifold gasket that they sent along with it was the one for the carbureted car, the thick, smaller gasket. So I've emailed them. I'm going to see if they can send me a replacement gasket, although I'm not holding my breath for it. So we may just have to make do with what we got right there, which is that gasket right there. The other thing I ran into an issue with is the thermostat. The thermostat that was in the car. Let me get back. Let me go and get it. So yeah, so this is the gasket that they gave me, which you know, says it's a carburetor gasket. I'm not sure why they gave me that when they gave me fuel injector seals for the fuel injectors, but needless to say, I'm guessing somebody didn't get this right. This is a thermostat that came in the car. The date on it, July the 6th, 1988. So I guess this is when that thermostat was put in, you know, there or around the time, which apparently you're supposed to replace the thermostat every 2 years on these things. So this car got one, one thermostat change, maybe two. But I thought I could get away with using a Mercedes-Benz thermostat. But unfortunately, the Mercedes-Benz one's a little bit too narrow. It turns out the one that I need is a BMW thermostat. The thermostat that people are recommending is a Stant 13588. I think that's a number. If it's wrong, then I'll correct it in the video. But that thermostat is used in BMWs in the M30 engine. The M30 engine is the BMW straight six, the big straight six engine that was used from like the early 70s. I think they started using it in the Bavaria, and they carried on using it all the way up until the early 90s in the 5 and 7 series. So a very popular engine used in the 5 series, the 6 series, and the 7 series BMWs of the 80s and the 70s. I'm going to order one. They have them in stock. They have them in different temperature ratings. They have them in an 85, an 80, a 70. Sorry, an 80, a 75, and a 71 degree. I'm just going to go and get the 80 because they have it in stock. But I'm going to try to replace it with that. They're talking about having another gasket with it, so I'm trying to figure out what the issue there is. Is it, do I need the gasket? Does the gasket, is it a slightly smaller thermostat? Why do I need the gasket? So, because this one doesn't really use a gasket, it just kind of sits in there and then the paper gasket kind of seals on top. So we'll get that figured out tomorrow. And you know, if all else fails, I'll order one for the UK. I guess they're going to be having to send me a gasket, or you know, maybe they won't. Then maybe they'll say to me that was my fault or something. But so that's really where we are. I'll switch the camera over and let Vaughan talk about what he did, because he went through a fair amount of effort to get, you know, the heads on and everything else. So give me the camera.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so we got the cylinder heads on, what, yesterday?
Yeah, the cylinder heads went on.
So after getting the surface of the block cleaned up as best we could, we got the heads put on, torqued down, went ahead and torqued down the, what they call them, the rocker.
The rocker shaft. The
rocker shafts,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So torqued those down, we rotated the engine over by hand, there was
Yeah.
no interference. So that's half the battle. We're not sure how it's going to run because it should have slightly higher compression.
Right, right.
So we're just gonna have to see.
So this was a big concern to me. I was worried that we may have shaved too much of the head, or when I say we, the machine shop may have shaved too much of the head, because you know, he said it was pretty warped, and you know, I'd read in different places that if you shave the head too much, then the valves will clatter. So what we did is we made sure that we rotated the engine twice, so that you know, we turned the engine fully, you know, on 2 rotations to make sure that nothing was stuck, and nothing was.
So that's not an absolute guarantee that we're not going to have a problem, but that's a good first step.
Yeah. No, I mean, we'd have stopped at that point.
Exactly.
You know, we'd have pulled the engine out and started looking for a replacement engine.
So we got the heads on. I don't know if you can see them on that side, but you can see the nice block off air injection EGR system covers.
Right, right. So we
Get a good view over here.
we did these. These were provided by British Tool Works, and they're so pretty. I mean, he did a really nice job making these block off bolts.
And they're not just it's not just a regular plug. It's not like a plumbing supply plug. It actually has a nice end that seals on the cylinder head. It's not threaded all the way through. They're pretty special.
Right, right. So we put these in. So this helps us get rid of all of the exhaust gas recirculation, the air pump. We probably don't need any of that. And
Yeah.
we're not planning on going back with any of it. So
Yeah, that gets rid of all this. And these are not fun to remove. You have to get a crow's foot on them. They're all rusted, so that'll be much nicer not having to mess with any of this. We're almost certain we can just completely get rid of the air pump. I don't think that belt runs anything else.
correct.
So,
And we need to basically go in and maybe clean these injectors before we replace them. We've got to replace the rubber seals anyway. And if we're going to replace the rubber seals, then we may as well clean the injectors. I have a way to clean those that works pretty well. Okay.
So the last things we have left are getting all this wiring put back. There was some wiring that was kind of chopped up for the alternator.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the original charge wires, like the high amperage wires.
Correct.
And that snaked down here and went to the top of the starter, which went to the large battery cable and charged the battery. And
Right.
someone decided that they did not want to use that, but I do want to use that
Correct.
instead of whatever kind of stuff they put in.
So what they did is they went in and they put a single wire alternator, and they ran a wire all the way back.
So that's just a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
The electrical, there's no need for that.
Correct. So what I'm thinking, and I'm not sure because I had to do the same thing with this Silver Shadow in the background. So I replaced that CAV alternator with a GM 10SI alternator, and I think that the alternator on this car is a bigger version of that 10SI. It's called a 12SI, and or it's some kind of GM alternator that's similar to a 12SI, but it is a self-exciting alternator, and if you rev it up enough, it will kick off, but it doesn't do it on a consistent basis. Like you could, if you're just doing short trips, you could run the battery flat on this car because the alternator doesn't regulate. It's running a single wire system, so basically you just have a wire going to the battery. There's no voltage regulation. There's no excite. There's no indication on the battery warning light on the dash. None of that works. So we're going to hope to go back with the original setup, and
Yeah, we'll keep the GM alternator, but we'll be able to use these existing wires that went back to the regulator.
right, which I think is these guys, right? That's the two wires that go into the side of the alternator, and then this is the big thick
That's
wire.
the charge wire.
That's
so
the charge wire.
We'll figure all that out and probably bridge them in the rear where the voltage regulator used to be, and use the dash bulb to excite it, like
exactly, because it's a self-regulator, and I'm not sure whether these cars, this 84, comes with an external voltage regulator. I know that
it probably did, considering how many plugs there are.
Correct. Yeah.
Probably did.
But if it does, then we can use the same method that we used on that Silver Shadow, and it's pretty straightforward.
We'll just keep all the car's wiring intact and use that for our needs instead of running extra wires.
Right.
So we got a couple more things to clean up here regarding that. Thermostat, we still haven't put any of the accessories back on, like the compressor or the power steering. We still have that fuel distributor and injectors and whatnot to put in.
But we think we're maybe a day left putting that stuff together.
Yeah, we got the thermostat. We probably have a day up here, and then
some
maybe
little
we'll
bit.
be able to get the accessories on. The power steering bracket was a bit of a pain. So
So then you know, we're going to drain the coolant. We're going to make sure all the coolant's out.
drain the oil.
We're going to drain the oil, change the filter, because obviously the car got really hot, so we're not going to rely on that oil.
We'll probably be able to start it and move it to the lift with the manifolds off very, very quickly. We still have the manifolds to do.
Yeah.
Or
Or we can push it onto the lift. And it's
we can push it onto the lift.
you know. So.
Okay guys, so we did a little bit more work on the engine. The fuel distributor is now on. We've put all the fuel injectors in on this bank, not the other bank. We had a bear of a time trying to get those injector seals in, but eventually we used a little bit of dish soap and as a lubricant and kind of pushed it in that way, and it seems to have done the job right. A little bit of a top tip for you. So all of these little bushings, these little mounts were broken underneath the fuel distributor. These are the ones that we use on the Mercedes-Benz air cleaner, the M117 air cleaner. They cost a couple of bucks, readily available, so most sources will have them. And even though they're metric, they thread right in. So I guess they figured out that they were going to use this stuff on a fuel distributor, and the fuel distributor is typically metric. So they figured it out and they made it work. So these are brand new. They only cost a couple of bucks. They're Mercedes-Benz ones. They're a little bit thicker, a little bit taller, but they work just fine. So if you end up needing to replace these, don't bother ordering them. You know, from abroad and paying all that money in shipping. You can get them locally over here. So what else? We put the oil filler cap on, and what else did we do, Vaughn?
I think that's about it. We're just kind of still routing wires through here. Still waiting on the thermostat to come in. So.
Right. So I also picked up this deal from Harbor Freight, and it's basically a vacuum coolant refill system. So what it does is it sucks a vacuum in the engine, and then you just basically turn the valve on and it'll just suck in all the coolant. You just pre-mix it in a bucket and it'll suck it in. Hopefully this will prevent any problems with air getting trapped in the system. I'm hoping that'll work, because you know, I'm slightly conscious that may have been the problem that could have happened, that you know there was air in the system and that caused the car to overheat, and then the head gasket and so on and so forth. Probably not, but got to think about it.
Well, I mean, I guess if you do get air in the system, it won't actually register that it's running hot, because all the temp sensors are so high up in the thermostat housing.
Exactly, which is what happened. You know?
Your heads can be 300 degrees and block accordingly as hot, and you wouldn't know, because there's no hot coolant touching the sensor.
Right, and that's really what happened. You know, I was driving down the road, and I mean, I always check my temperature gauge, because it's just one of those things that if you own a bunch of old cars, you've always got your eye on the temperature gauge, the oil pressure gauge as well, because for the same reason. And I didn't see the temperature gauge go up or anything else like that, but you know, I did get the coolant warning, low coolant warning buzzer go off, and that's when I pulled over the first time round. I'd added coolant, added water at that point, and drove it, and I think it was too late, because I heard a pop shortly afterwards, and that was the radiator hose that exploded. We're also going to be replacing the radiator hoses, so we bought new upper and lower radiator hoses. I think we're going to have to live with this gasket for now, for the simple reason that, you know, I emailed Intro Car, let them know that they sent me the wrong gasket, and heard nothing back, so I'm not expecting that they want to do anything about it, and I'll order it at some other time and get it taken care of. But yeah, so that's where we are, and hopefully in the next couple of days we'll have it running, and we'll give you an update. And if we don't give you an update of it running, then there's probably a problem, and I'm looking for another engine. All right, thanks very much, guys. Have a great weekend, and I should give you an update by Sunday, Monday. Thank you. Bye-bye.